Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving into chapter 6. We're going to be working with fractions for the next few chapters. Specifically in this chapter, we are going to be adding and subtracting fractions. So let's play along. I have directions over on the side there for you. As you can see, the first step is to ask yourself, do I have common denominators? And when I look at that first problem there, 1 over 2, or 1/2, plus 3/4, the answer to that question is no, I do not have common denominators. So I need to work to make these numbers have common denominators, and I can do that very simply. Going to step 2, it says I need to find the smallest multiple that each denominator has in common. And I do this very simply. I'm going to take those two denominators, my 2 and my 4, and I'm going to count by 2s and I'm going to count by 4s and see what number they have in common. So as I counted by 2s and as I counted by 4s, I noticed that they do have something in common. They have the number 4 in common. I can count by 2s and hit 4, and obviously I can count by 4s and hit 4. So my next step, now that I've identified my common denominator as being a 4, I need to ask myself, how do I get to that 4? How do I turn this 2 into a 4? Well, I have to multiply it by 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4. And this takes me to my next step. My next step says to remember, what you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. So if I'm going to multiply my denominator by 2, I have to multiply my numerator by 2 as well. So when I multiply my numerator times 2, I get 2. 2 times 1 gives me a product of 2. And my denominator, 2 times 2, is now 4. Now I ask myself, how do I go from this 4 to a 4? What do I multiply to get from 4 to 4? Well, I multiply 4 times 1. What I do to the denominator, I also have to do to the numerator. So if I'm going to multiply my denominator times 1, I have to multiply my numerator times 1 as well. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 1 is 4. Now I have common denominators. 2/4 plus 3/4. Well, 2/4 plus 3/4 is 5/4. Because my next step says that I need to add my numerators, but leave my denominator the same. So I simply have to add my numerators, my 2 and my 3, to get 5. And then it leaves 4 all the way along. Now my last and final step is I need to divide if, and only if, my answer is an improper fraction. And you may be asking yourself, what is an improper fraction? Well, you may recall that an improper fraction is a fraction that's numerator is bigger than its denominator, which is the case here. 5/4 has a numerator that is bigger than its denominator. So I have to divide. As the song goes, the numerator goes in the cave, the numerator goes in the cave. Hi-ho, the dairy-o, the numerator goes in in the cave. So I set up my division problem like this. And then I ask myself, how many times does 4 go into 5? 1 time. I multiply and get 4, subtract and get 1. Because I have nothing to bring down, I leave that as the new numerator in my mixed number. And my denominator is my divisor in my problem. So my final answer, 1/2 plus 3/4, 1 and 1/4. Hooray! Let's try another problem. Here's my problem. 7/8 plus 1/2. So again, I'm going to ask myself, do I have common denominators? Well, the answer is no, I do not. So I have to work to get that. And I ask myself, if I count by 8s and I count by 2s, what number are they going to have in common? 2, 4, 6, 8. I can count by 2s and hit 8, and obviously I can count by 8s and hit 8. It sounds like my common denominator is going to be 8. So then I ask myself, 8 times what gives me 8? Well, 8 times 1 gives me 8. And what I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. So 1 times 7 is 7. And 1 times 8 is 8. Then I think, 2 times what number gives me 8? 2 times 4. And then I mimic the same process for my numerator. 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. So just like in the previous problem, I add my numerators and leave my denominator. 7 plus 4 gives me a sum of 11. And again, I leave my numerator the same. 11/8. You may notice that this is you got it, improper fraction. So because this is an improper fraction, I have to divide to make it into a mixed number. The numerator goes in the cave. The numerator goes in the cave. So I solve this problem as any other division problem. 8 goes into 11 one time, gives me a product of 8, subtract, and I get 3. Since there's nothing else to bring down, 3 is the numerator, 8 is the denominator. So my final answer is 1 3/8. Please see if you can successfully solve this problem. Pause the video at this time and resume it once you have solved the problem to see if your answer matches mine. Here's the work that I did to solve this problem. I found the common denominators to be 12. My improper fraction was 17/12, so I divided to get a final answer of 1 5/12. Please score yourself on your learning scale for this learning target. Please bring any and all questions back to class tomorrow. Enjoy your evening.